Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
We're all pumped up here at Fox Sports 920 The Jersey as Rutgers Football will air right here on our station, and I can't wait to listen to Chris Carlin, Ray Lucas, and my man Fooch, Anthony Fucilli, on the sidelines. He's the Rutgers sideline reporter, does a tremendous job for many years for Rutgers Football, and Rutgers opens up a new era led by head football coach Chris Ash, who comes over from Ohio State, and they have a tough game right out of the gate next Saturday in Washington up against a top 15 team. And Fooch joins us right now to talk some X's and O's with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Fooch, thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mr. Gelb.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate the time. So actually the college football season gets started tonight, and it gets started in Australia. I just don't like that the college football season starts in Australia, Fooch. How about you?
Down under, you're right. Something's not right about that, but it's right around the corner. It's inevitable, big guy, so get ready for it.
Yeah, you're right, and you see Hawaii, it's a tough schedule. I know you do a lot of traveling with Rutgers, but I don't think you have to go on too long of flights this year like Hawaii does. They have to fly to Australia, and then they play Michigan the following week. That's a tough travel schedule, Fooch.
It always is every year for Hawaii. They know the ground rules. It's always going to be a lot of travel for them. I actually knew people who coach there, and it is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and you try to think about what's good for the kids, and I know they're making a lot of money going to Australia, but to travel that much, that's a tough start to their football season. But let's talk some Rutgers with Chris Ash, the new football coach, the new sheriff in town. What's been your impression so far on the Chris Ash era?
Well, I think it's been very disciplined, very focused, very attention to detail. I think the kids have bought in, right from the beginning, and I think there's a lot of little things that have been changed that are, setting the way of building a program, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, the weight room, the new weight room that they just put in, some of the new coaches implementing their ways of doing things. So I think, like I said, all these little things add up to building a program, and I think Coach Ash is trying to do what he has seen in the past at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, and at Arkansas.
And you know that better than anybody because you get to see the emotions of these kids on the sidelines. And I do, even in my short time covering Rutgers football, you see a refreshing feel with this program now that Chris Ash is leading the way. And it's a rigorous practice schedule. But you get down to college coaching, and I know consistency is now rare in college football with the rotating door that happens in the coaching world. But you hope Chris Ash becomes that consistent guy. His big challenge is going to be recruiting, especially for Rutgers. He has to win that battle in New Jersey and also Pennsylvania. When you talk about the Big Ten, that's a high-level football, one that Rutgers has to compete in. Do you have the confidence that he could recruit consistently in this area to get Big Ten talent?
I do. I think he's off to a good start. I think you forgot New York. That's also a key for Rutgers.
For sure.
Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and, every now and then dip into Florida. And I think he's off to a really good start getting some high-level football players to buy in New Jersey. And that's always going to be the key. You want to get most of your class from New Jersey and then sprinkle in some high-level players from around the rest of the area. And so far, I think he's off to a good start. I'm amazed at how quickly he got some pretty good names to jump on board.
What's the pitch, though, if you want to come play for Rutgers? What do you think he's pitching some of these kids?
I think, a chance to play right away, a chance to stay home and represent your university and represent your state. And I think also to play in the Big Ten is very intriguing at a high-profile program, which is going to be on television, which is going to be playing in front of huge crowds. And I think he wants to do it in a fashion that's first class. And I think, he's trying to show the recruits that come to Rutgers, look at the facilities, look at how we do things, look how we take care of our players. And like he said, the biggest thing is the players that are on the roster right now, they help you recruit the kids that come in. And so far, he's had a lot of positive feedback.
And you also need that support from the administration, and he's going to get it with Pat Hobbs. I wasn't a big fan of Julie Herman, so I like that move bringing in a Pat Hobbs. How about the life that he's created with this program as they try to get Rutgers football back to consistency and also men's and women's basketball back to the level that they should be competing at?
Well, I think you hit it right on the nail. The priority now is that everybody is on the same page and they want Rutgers football to succeed. They understand that football drives the bus, and I think everyone is on the same page. And when you have that, and you have the university, the athletic department, the coaches, all working together to be successful, I think it gives you a real good chance to get things done. I've seen that right now, and that's one thing that's been missing maybe in the past that Pat Hobbs has brought in, that commitment to excellence.
And also, I think the patience is a big factor because this thing is not going to be changed overnight. It's going to take more than 1 year, and I think that patience, and you just want to see a football team this year that's competitive. They may not be great in the win-loss column, but they just have to be close in these games. And in our society now, it's tough to get that patience because everyone's critical on Twitter and Facebook, but that patience I also think is a big key in the fans giving Chris Ash some time to lay down his foundation and really get these players to buy in.
No doubt. But I think that what we've seen in the short term is how the players have changed their bodies, how strong they've gotten in the trenches, offensive and defensive line, how skilled they are at some positions like running back. Gives you an opportunity, as you said, to be competitive, win some games, and show people that you're moving in the right direction. And I think with some experienced players back this year, they have a real good chance of doing that.
Let's get to the quarterback play as Fooch joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. I'll break down what you saw from Laviano last year as it was announced this week that he's going to be the starting quarterback for this team.
Well, I was impressed with Chris. I'm a big believer in Chris Laviano. I think his completion rate was very successful for a first-year player. I never quite understood why people were so hard on him in a first-year situation. But I understand, quarterbacks in this area, we really we're always looking for the guy behind them, and we always have a lack of patience. But I understand that, we kind of eat our young when it comes to Rutgers quarterbacks. We try to make them something they're not their first year or their second year. And hopefully they can withstand all of the criticism and all of the pressure and then get to their junior and senior years, and then you get the fruit of your labor, kind of like Gary Nova. So I'm thinking that Chris Laviano is capable of doing the same thing. He's dedicated himself this summer. He's gotten wiser. He's got more experience. He's been in the Big Ten battles. That's going to be very valuable for him as he comes out of the block this year. And I expect Chris Laviano to take another step forward.
And also you bring in the offensive coordinator, Drew Mehringer, who has a background with Ohio State. And last year he was involved in the renaissance of Houston. And I covered Temple last year, and I got to see how fluid that offense was with Houston under Tom Herman and also Drew. Drew's going to help him out big time as well, you have to imagine.
Well, I love the offense. I've said for years that I'm not sure that Rutgers is going to outpower people in the Big Ten. But if you can spread people out and get certain matchups, you can find ways to pick people apart. Now, look, you're going to need good quarterback play, and you're going to need players to make plays after the catch. But I like the offense. I like the principles. I like what they're trying to do. And now they just have to execute.
And when we have Fooch here with us, let's get to the defense. The big name on the defense, we could talk the offense until we're blue in the face, but the big name defensively is Darius Hamilton. How is he from a health standpoint? What are you hearing on him?
So far, so good. You go in with your fingers crossed and you hope that he returns to what he was. And what he was is a warrior. He is a terrific football player, mentally and physically. He's a leader. And if he's back to what he was 2 years ago, watch out. Because I think that Big Ten teams will really understand what Rutgers was missing last year without having him in the lineup. Again, he says he's fine. They've been really smart in practice so far, limiting him, not trying to get him, in situations where he could aggravate or get injured again. So, he's going to come right out of the gate and He'll start off a little slow, and we'll see how it goes. But if Darius can return to his form of being an intimidating physical presence in the middle of that Rutgers defense, then that defense will be special.
You talk about his leadership, and clearly it all starts in the trenches with football of any level, and that's where the game is won. But you mentioned his leadership, and Rutgers has a long tradition of college football being the birthplace of college football. I read this week that he's the first three-time captain in the history of the program. So take us a little bit more, since you get to see him a lot more than we do, about why he's such a special leader.
Because he's a special kid not only on the field but off the field. Darius, just being around him, you get excited. He brings enthusiasm to the rest of his teammates and confidence. You just feel the confidence in him because he knows when he's healthy that offensive linemen are not going to be able to deal with him. So when you have a player like that who's that confident, guys rally around him, and he will disrupt offenses when he can play fast and he can be physical. And that's what, Coach Ash is hoping, that he has, a Darius Hamilton from, 2 years ago back on his football team. And to be a three-time captain, well, let's face it, he is a special person, but, you don't get a lot of recruits like Darius Hamilton to stay home. He took a chance on Rutgers. And hopefully now people will see him have a terrific ending of his career and say, okay, you know what? I want to do what Darius Hamilton is doing.
So when you get ready for Washington, we've already talked about the quarterback. We've already talked about the play of the defensive line. What else do you try to key in on and get excited for with this Rutgers season as they get ready to take on Washington in a little over a week?
Well, I think if you're talking about having a game at Washington against a top 20 team that is competitive, they need to be physical and run the football and control the football and limit mistakes. We say it all the time. You can't beat yourself on the road. You're going to be in front of a hostile situation. Penalties, turnovers will kill you. But I really think that Rutgers will be able to run the ball in the middle of that Washington defense. And if they can continually pound them with this power spread that they're playing and open some things up for the wide receivers, then I think it could be an interesting day.
Last one before we let you run, Fooch. I know that you've seen a lot of professional sporting events and also college sporting events. When I was telling my dad that you were coming on the show today, his first thing was, that guy Fooch has seen a lot of sports. So tell me the best pro sporting event that you've ever seen in person and the best college sporting event that you've ever seen in person.
Well, it would have to be the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl that the Giants won with Eli Manning, and the David Tyree catch. I can remember being on the sidelines and just seeing that ball come down, and somehow he held on to the football. I don't think I've ever experienced that. It was almost like divine intervention. So I would have to say that Super Bowl there in Arizona was, I've been around for the Yankees, all the Yankee championship games, but that Giants Super Bowl was pretty special considering who they were playing and an undefeated Patriot team. College, I've been to Final Fours, I've been to national championship games. I think, it's going to sound a little bit jaded, but I think the Louisville game against Rutgers was one of the most special nights that I've ever been around in college sports. It finally was an event that this area was craving, and for them to finish it the way they finished it, and for the fans to rush the field and bedlam, as Chris Carlin always says, pandemonium in Piscataway. It's an event I'll never forget.
I love that call from the continent, Chris Carlin, pandemonium in Piscataway. But I will say, though, I hated your first memory because I'm a Patriot fan, and that memory was not a good one for me. It was good for you, but not for me. And I actually,
well, that's my most memorable, so I have to be truthful.
That's true. I met David Tyree once, and I was walking with him, and I had to bring him to a location, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how the heck am I going to have a conversation with this guy? I don't like the guy for what he did, and I just brought it up to him. I go, hey, I'm a Patriot fan, David, and he goes, oh, you must hate me. So that was easy. But well,
the funny thing is that David had a brutal practice
you're right.
On Friday. he couldn't catch a cold, and then he makes one of the most incredible catches in the history of Super Bowl. So there you go.
Yeah, Sam Madison told me he couldn't catch anything that week leading up to the game, but he had a memorable night and one that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. But Fooch, we welcome you here to Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. We can't wait to hear all of Rutgers football on our station this year, and we appreciate the time, and let's do it again real soon, my man.
I appreciate it, and say hello to Pops for me.
Will do. There is Fooch joining us on the hotline. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, does a great job covering Rutgers football as their sideline reporter. And I can't wait to see what happens with Rutgers football because, like I was saying, I saw Temple, and I'm a Temple alum, a proud Temple alum, and I love the job Matt Rule is doing with the cherry and the white. But I saw the way, and I know it's different because Temple's in the AAC and Rutgers is in the Big Ten, but I saw the way that Matt came in and set the bar high of saying we want to win conference championships. And everyone around Temple raised their eyebrow and said, conference championships? What the heck is this guy talking about? And the first year was a disaster. It was 2-10. But if you watch that team and you saw the way that they competed in games, they took down some really good teams down to the wire. UCF. They played a Rutgers team that year that they should have won on the road. And they built a foundation that year. Rome is not built in one day, but they laid that foundation in that first year under Matt Rule, and then you improved. You won 6-6 the year after that, and then the year after 6-6 was when the big success came, when you beat Penn State, you get to the conference championship game, College game day came into town. So my message with that being said to Rutgers fans is just be patient. You have the standards of a heavy Ohio State background coaching staff coming in here, but you need to be patient. These guys know how to win football games. The big thing that it comes down to is can they bring in Big Ten talent consistently with recruiting? That answer, I don't know yet. And we're not going to know for a few years. But this year, you just want them to be competitive. They are not going to win every game. I don't know if they're going to go to a bowl game. But this is a team that they're building. They're laying the building blocks down this year. And eventually they're going to move, and hopefully for Rutgers, they turn back to a program with what you saw in 2006 when you had a team create national buzz. But I really do believe in the leadership of this Rutgers program. I couldn't stand Julie Herman. I thought she was a terrible athletic director, and you probably did as well. She just wasn't bright. And that was evident by her newspaper comment that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And a lot of other stuff. Eddie Jordan, nice guy. Not a great college basketball coach by any stretch. They bring in Steve Peichel, who has a Jim Calhoun background at UConn. Did a lot of good things in Long Island. You already have a Hall of Famer, a tremendous woman and coach in C. Vivian Stringer. And now you have a guy that you should have confidence in Chris Ash. And football drives the train. They're the conductor of NCAA sports these days. You need a good football coach, and I believe that Chris Ash is going to be someone that I'm sure this won't be his last job, but there's a reason why he had to settle for Rutgers, whether you want to hear that or not, especially when you come with that pedigree of winning a national championship at Ohio State. But with that being said, he could build something special here. If Temple's able to dominate in recruiting in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, why can't Rutgers? And Chris Ash has brought that point up before on this show. And I like what Chris Ash is doing. But that's what it comes down to. Recruiting. And that's not earth-shattering stuff. You don't need a PhD in college sports to figure that one out. It's common sense. Can he bring in the right kid that has the mix of leadership, behaving, and can also, by the way, play really good football? Can he bring that player in? I think he can. But, like I was talking to the offensive line coach in AJ Blazak, they need the right kid to come in here. AJ was saying if you have a kid that's working out and every 5 seconds he's coming over and talking to a recruiting coordinator, that kid probably isn't fit for this university. It's physical. It's taxing. It's demanding. They're hardworking. It's like what football should be. And that is the foundation that Chris Ash is trying to bring in and install. And he brings over KP. And you have tough, physical, old school football practices in this new school era. And as long as he could bring in the right players consistently, I have to believe that this program is going to get better. Will they be Michigan? Will they be Ohio State? No. That's ridiculous expectations. But they should be able to compete. And the big draw bringing in Rutgers to the Big Ten was the TV money because of the area that they're in, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And you need to make that program respectable again. And Kyle Flood was a nice guy, very kind to me, but not the right football coach for the long term of this university. I think they found gold here in Chris Ash. And Pat Hobbs talked about the interview process, and I think Pat's scheduled to join us sometime next week on the Zach Gelb Show before they get ready to kick off the 2016 football season. But Pat and Chris talked, and that interview could have went on for hours and hours and hours and hours. I saw him do an interview saying that. And I also believe that we talk about how Chris Ash's personality is contagious and it's bringing a new life to that football program. I believe Pat Hobbs' personality is also rubbing off on the entire athletic program, and you need that new sense of energy, that positivity, someone that understands what he's doing, and I think Pat Hobbs is that man with a very good background that I think he's the right guy leading this Rutgers program. There's hope. You should jump on the bandwagon if you're not on it already. I'll be rooting for Rutgers, just not when they play my Temple Owls coming up in that series down the road. But with Rutgers, it's a fun story. I think they could build something just as long as if they could find some consistency. And that's something they've got away from over the years. Consistency, consistency, consistency. That is the key to success in college sports. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, the Jersey, 609-919-9200. We'll take our final break of the day. Oh, this show is flying by. The weekend is coming up in about 20 minutes. Time in the Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios, 5:39. When we get back, we'll give you the lineups for the local teams tonight, and also, it's a Friday. You ready to sound off? Home stretch! Coming up next on the Zach Gelb Show.